what's Crockxen clan members, anime fans, and others who have stumbled upon this video? I'm SoresanCrockxen, and today we're going to be doing another anime time, and today's going to be Amagi Brilliant Park. Let's go. Alright, so the basic premise, or the story of Amagi Brilliant Park, is that you have this park called Amagi Brilliant Park. And it is, it's kind of like it's a park created by people from another world named Maple Land, and these are beings that require people's enjoyment / happiness in order to feed off of it. So they made the park when they got moved there to create enjoyment and happiness in people that went there to the park, and so that they can actually survive. Now, the park is in a slump right now, and they haven't met the yearly mark for the past 4 years, which is, I think, is like 500,000 visitors a year. The problem is that the park has been just gone downhill for so long that they needed help from an outside source. Now, the reason for this is if the park closes, well, they're going to have to move out, right? They have to find new jobs to try to see if there's a way to keep themselves relevant to the point where they can actually still live. The problem with this whole mentality is, or this whole issue is, that the ruler, technically speaking, of the park, she needs the park to survive. She can't leave. She's cursed. She can't age. She always loses her memories every year, and she needs the park to survive. So if the park closes, she's going to die. So they go out and they get help from another person who actually dwelled in, I think he was an actor. Like when he was he was a child actor. I think that's what it was, or a model, something like that. He was a very important child, essentially. Now he's in high school, and so they went out of their way to try to get him to be the manager of the park, so to see if he could come up with a way to save it. And that's the essential story of the series. Now the animation for the series is actually top notch. I really liked it a lot. There was a weird thing with me where they did something where, like, all the female characters were people. They were actually like human looking, but any male character besides the main male character and the security guard, they're all animals or some non-human looking thing. For example, there's a guy who's actually a wrench. There's a guy that has a freaking, I think it's a mutton for a head. There's a sheep. There's the cat. There's the mouse looking thing. Basically, any character that's a guy is going to be some form of animal or thing, as if to say, hey, guys are nothing but, they're not humans or something. I don't know. That's the only weird part about it. The music was great. I really love the opening and the ending, which is actually really rare for me to like an ending, but I loved it regardless. It was just, and it looked phenomenal. I love the action. There wasn't really a lot of action, but I love the way the visuals look. It really was really great. It was really smooth. So yeah. So in this show, there's technically only 4 characters you really need to care about. You have Kanyen, you have Sento, you have Mofle, and Latifa. Now there's a lot of characters in the show. Okay, there's way too many characters in the show, but those are the main ones you really need to focus on. Kanye is the guy that they go out to get, which is he's the when he used to be in the whole like spotlight when he was younger. But he's in high school now. He's a very smart man, but he's very arrogant and very cocky and just very self-centered, and he thinks really way too highly of himself a lot. He's basically very dang, what's the word? I'm trying to think. There's a word, I can't remember the word right now, but it's basically when you basically think too highly of yourself. Um, but he is smart. He does show it a lot. He's a very smart man. But he's the one that gets brought in to try to save him. Uh, he does fumble every once in a while, but he also likes to micromanage a lot, so that's also hinders him sometimes because since he likes everything to be done a specific way, he kind of slows down a lot of the processes that he has to do to try to save the park. Um, so when he's like working on something, but then he has to micromanage something else, so he has to like take a step back from what he was doing to try to work on that. This is kind of like that kind of generic idea. Sento is the chick that went to go get him. She was the previous manager, and she's actually part of the royal guard of Maple Land, who was sent to kind of like protect and guard Latifa. Kind of like she's supposed to make sure that Latifa lives. She's supposed to protect her from anything that happens. Unfortunately, during her year as a manager, everything really that's when things really started to go downhill very much. Like it was bad before, but like that cemented how horrible they were, like and how bad of a position they were. Essentially, she basically ruled with an iron fist. She's a very tomboyish character, who I mean she's very girly inside, but she really like her exterior self. She's very like tough on everybody. Um, she has this ability where she can pull a gun out of anywhere on her body. She usually just pulls it out of her skirt, but she can pull that out anywhere. She can just grab in her boobs and just take it out. But and it has these magic bullets, just whatever that have different side effects. Man, what she does is just like a pain bullet. She just hits you with it and it hurts because it's the cheapest one. It's the easiest one to use. Like it's more for your buck essentially. There's more expensive ones that like cause you to lose memory or like they have different things. But they're a lot more expensive, so she usually just uses those. Um, and her whole purpose is she's supposed to be like the kind of secretary or the right hand of Kanye. They do hint at a lot of romance between them, but nothing ever happens. Um, spoiler. But yeah, and then you have Mofle, he's the main mascot of the park. He's the face that everybody recognizes. His kind of character, like the way his personality is, he's kind of like Kanye, except that he's not like arrogant. Like more along the lines of he wants to make sure everything goes well. Um, but he himself has just given up, kind of, because he just feels like there's no hope anymore. This is the last year. They only have 3 months left before the year ends. They're gonna close down the park. Latifa's gonna die. Latifa is his niece, by the way, so that makes it even worse for him. He's emotionally attached to the whole place because he needs to protect his niece. Um, and like the gimmick with him is that he kind of looks like a character from Full Metal Panic. I don't know if you guys the mouse, they kind of look similar because the shows were created by the same creator. They have the same creator. So they make a joke. It's kind of like a running gag in the series where somebody will say something along the lines of a knockoff or a cheap imitation, and he gets so riled up and pissed off because I'm not a clone. I'm not an imitator because he's trying to prove he's his own character, which is hilarious in its own right. Because he just gets so mad and so he just starts beating up on people. In fact, there was one episode where um, they were trying to they couldn't open the park, so they had to like improvise outside, and he was trying to make have some fun and stuff like that. And then I think it was a little kid that said it, and he just beat up the father, and it was the most funniest thing ever. And then Sento had to come in and kind of erase everybody's memory, but it was hilarious nonetheless. Um, he's a really fun character though. And then Latifa she's the queen slash princess. I don't even know exactly what she is, but she's technically the ruler of the whole park, and she's actually technically the ruler of Maple Land. But they're over here now. They're on Earth and stuff like that. She's cursed. She was cursed by a wizard, which prevents her from aging. So she's like I think 14, and she just stays 14. Um, she actually met Kanye when he was younger. He showed up. They actually dedicated a kind of like a mini episode, like a certain part of one of the episodes, um, to how he met her when he was younger, and she still looks the same now. So that's when we get the backstory about it. So she can't age. Every year, her memory resets to where she doesn't remember anything that happened that year. All she knows, anything that she remembers, is from stuff that happened before the curse. So she knows everybody um, that works there, and she knows that everybody except for Kanye because she didn't know him beforehand. Uh, so it's been 10 years since they first met, and she still looks the same, and he's grown older. Now, um, she's very nice though. She's very sympathetic. Um, she's always trying to help others. She looks for over others more than herself. She's really just most of the time, if she has to sacrifice a little bit of her health for somebody else, she will do it. She likes to cook too, so she constantly makes stuff so they can sell and stuff like that. She's a very positive girl too. Um, but at the end of the day, she knows that she's not going to remember anything. At the end of the whole thing. Uh, so it's kind of sad and happy at the same time because it's like she's enjoying herself. She's trying to make sure she lives her time great, so that she doesn't feel horrible. But at the end of the day, she's going to forget everything. So it's kind of like she's doing it, but it's pointless because she's not gonna remember any of it. Um, and then I guess I could talk about Tirame and Macaron, which is it's a sheep and a cat. The Tirame, he's a freaking pervert. He runs a flower part. It's kind of like a flower bed. It's technically a ride that goes around gardens and stuff like that. And Macaron's like he plays his music and instruments and stuff. There's also the Elementarios, which they're a group of 4 girls who kind of just were put together. They each have an element dedicated to them. The main one is water. She's the leader. Then there's the chick who has she's fire. She's always on. I'm gonna say Twitter because technically that's what it looked like. Um, there's the water one. She's kind of like not the wind one. She's kind of an airhead. Kind of a joke there. And then the land one, like the earth, she's kind of like very shy, quiet, and very introverted. But they do a lot of dancing and stuff like that. There's a way too many characters to really go into, but they all have their kind of kinks and quirks and gimmicks and gags and stuff like that. But it kind of all coincides. It's really a fun series. So each character just kind of brings their own flair to the thing. And when they actually start bringing in new people later on, they bring in their own spice. So they actually make new rides or stuff dedicated to what they do. For example, there's this pirate guy, the Ironbeard, who shows up, and then they actually make a whole attraction with it when it's like a ship. And there's this guy who's a dolphin, who's the samurai. So they have this it's kind of like a play where they get the fans interacting with cheering for the samurai dolphin as he's fighting this walrus pirate guy. It's called they anything new that brings in always. It always goes into like a certain this is all Kanye's head too. He's the one that's planning on stuff. Anytime anybody new comes in, they're going to be working at something. For example, there's these guys who are like these moles. They work with construction, so he makes them work construction, building stuff, fixing stuff, and stuff like that. Going back to Kanye, like I said, this it's kind of like full circle. He basically runs the park now, so everything has to go through him. He comes up with plans. He comes up with everything. Alright, so for the final episode, I'm actually going to talk about the last 2 because the last one is really just, it's kind of like a special OVA. Like, it's not really an OVA, but it has no real purpose to the story. Essentially what the last episode is kind of like them making a promotional video. That's literally, it's just the guy who works with the advertisement, basically the head of promotion It has to like ask everybody for their opinions and their input to try to make a promotional. All right, so for the last episode or the final episode section of this, I'm actually going to talk about the last two videos, or the last two episodes, because the last one is really more along the lines of just an extra episode. It doesn't really dedicate anything to the story. Basically, what happens is like the head of promotion has to create a promotional video for the park, and they have to go. He has to go around asking people for inputs, like other members and stuff like that, to try to make a promotional video. But the episode before that, which is episode 12, this is a 13 episode series, is essentially they have 3 months from the beginning of the series, 3 months to meet their goal. They're really far from it. They have to get, I think it's like at least 400,000 people at the start of the series in 3 months. So they have to get people in night after night. So Kanye, like I said, he's constantly making new stuff, trying to promote everything, trying to bring people in, stuff like that. So the last episode is like the last mark. Now he himself was able to get a soccer match, made in there. Now while the stadium has its own entrance, he basically when he made the deal, he said first of all that he's given a power to read minds. At the beginning of the series, he basically because they're the I guess the managers or the board of the team, they're kind of short on money. So he's reading their minds and he's like, don't worry about it. We're covering everything because they don't need money. They need visitors. That's the only way they can get the park to stay open. So they don't need the money right now. They need visitors. They need people to come in through the gates. That is how they're gonna stay open, and they can worry about money later. Okay, so he works with them, and he says, okay, so the only thing they really need is people have to go through the front gate. They can't go through the stadium's entrance. They have to go through the front gate of the park to get to the stadium or stuff like that. So the last episode is basically like the last stretch. This is the last day. The promotion stuff like that are going on. Letting people know that the game's there. They're selling the tickets and stuff like that. They really have to go through the front end. So the last episode is literally that, just the final stretch. That's the last day. And people coming in. The game's at 6. People were there for the park in the morning. People were there for the park in the afternoon, and then the game was at 6, and you had people coming and coming and coming. The problem is they were short, like at least I think it was like 200 visitors or something like that. They were so close, right? And Kanye's like freaking out because he's like, no, it's impossible. And then the problem is there were no shows. People who buy tickets but then end up not going to the place. It happens. It happens. Okay, people buy tickets sometimes and just either forget or just don't go. It happens. So because they sold enough to meet the goal, but then people didn't show up for the game, and that was a problem. So they're like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? And then they were getting people in, random people coming in, and then they basically like everybody just started calling people and calling other people, and then getting information out. The fire Barry was tweeting about it. People they were just trying to get people in. They needed that last. I think it was like 200 people or something like that. No, I can't be them. It was a small number, but it was kind of still big, so they can't just like be like. And then everybody they called, came in. There was people there, and then it was like they were like maybe like 2 or 3 minutes left or something like that, and they were missing. They were 3 people short, and they were like, he was like freaking out. He was like, no, this can't be. He was like, this is everybody we called. And the funny thing is, throughout the series, there were these 3 kids who they're obsessed with girls. They're actually in the opening itself too. They're kind of really creepy kids that as soon as they see a girl, their faces change and they like run in and chase that girl down and just jump them. Sento was one of the biggest targets of that. And so like it just so happens that they were passing by with their mom, and And then all of a sudden, like it's like they're cutting down to the wire. They turn and see her, and they're like, "Girl!" And they jump through the gate, and the count, so they meet the goal right there. And as soon as they pass through, like time is done, and so the guy who's coming in to tear down the park, after if they didn't meet their goal, like the person who runs the whole place was like, touche, touche. After, like, while they're celebrating, he's like in the back just watching them. Like, it was the funniest thing ever because it's like if those three little kids hadn't done that, they would have failed. But then it was like an emotional thing, and Kanye said he was going to leave because his whole purpose there was to make sure that the park stayed open. But then he came back at the end, so it was just funny. It was a nice lasting moment. It honestly was a really good way to end the series. Um, I don't expect a season two, and I really wouldn't mind it if there wasn't a season two. This was well done. The way the season ended was great. So, gosh, that final episode was great though. All right, now before my rating, I do want to apologize because you're probably seeing a mess behind me. I'm not at my house. We're actually like this resort place. My dad pays yearly to keep things nice. It's like I don't really know how to explain it. But this is where some of us. It's actually like two, like three, four, five. I don't even know how many rooms we have actually. But this is just where we're staying. But anyways, so that's why it's like this. That's why I'm like this. That's why the camera is a little angled off as well. But anyways, so as for a rating, now Moggy Brilliant Park, I was actually very skeptical about it in the beginning because I didn't know too much about it, and the biggest problem with it was there was no legal site streaming it. So I was like, why the heck am I gonna watch this? Because I actually did want to watch it, but I was still like not too sure about it. But then I did watch it, and I did enjoy it, and I did love it. Um, and I honestly think it's a really great, fun show for you to watch. So my rating for Amagi Brilliant Park is finish it, and I mean finish it good because it's just that good of a series. It's really good. It's really fun. And there's a lot of fun gags. A lot of the characters just bring a lot of spark into it. Like really, I have to say, watch it truly for the characters because every character has their own personalities, their own gimmicks, their own gags. It just makes the series fun. They make it fun, and it's just a good, fun series to watch. But anyways, guys, that is going to be it for this anime time review. That's what it is. Anime time is my anime reviews. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. If you've seen the series, let me know what you thought about it. If you haven't, like I said, I suggested. But again, this is all my opinion. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm SoresanCrockxen, and I'll see you guys in future videos.